Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and it's still that time of year where we get to talk about all the different kinds of awards and the best films of last year and get to be really excited. So if you guys haven't checked out my top 10 video that I got to do with my friend Matt Williams, which was actually a lot of fun to film, and you probably could tell because we were having a lot of fun doing it. I know it's like an hour and a half kind of runtime. I promise I'm going to try to keep this one a lot shorter so that I'm not overwhelming everybody, but I do want to talk in certain detail about each of the things. And welcome to my second annual Wasteland Reviewer Awards. So if you didn't watch my videos from last year, the idea of this is when I pick the nominees and the winners. So I will be doing my Oscar favorites, who I think deserves to win out of the nominees, probably next weekend. But this weekend I wanted to specifically do my awards where I pick the nominees and share my thoughts on each category. Same as last year, there won't be foreign language film category since I don't see much. So I did see one great one. Go check out Thelma. But and I also don't do any of the shorts or anything like that or documentaries because also I don't see a whole lot of them and I don't feel like I'm a fair judge of them. And honestly, there's two that I took off that are major categories as well from the Oscars, and sound editing and sound mixing, because to be perfectly honest, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to editing and mixing sound. All I know is Dunkirk shook my insides during me sitting in watching that movie. So I'd probably give both of them to Dunkirk. So there you go, if you really wanted my opinion on that. Now, so I'm going to get started with the writing awards, and we're going to start with Best Original Screenplay. And don't apologize for me keep looking down from the camera, but I have my notebook on my lap to keep track of everything that I nominated, so don't mind me as I keep looking down. But we're starting with original screenplay. What I'm going to do is read off the nominees leading up to the fifth nominee, which is going to be the winner. So we're going to be building up. So I would nominate Martin McDonagh for Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. It was so sharply written and dark and really undercuts expectations of what you go into a film expecting. And I thought it was very original. Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird, one of the most natural films that came out this year, and everyone felt like real people, and it was so well written. Stephen Rogers for I, Tonya. Boy, was that a sharply funny, interesting way to portray a biopic, with all the different ways that they're telling stories through interviews and other people's perspectives and everything like that. I thought it was really funny and sharp. Guillermo del Toro and Vanessa Taylor for Shape of Water. Such a unique, beautiful film, and such well fleshed out characters with a lot of depth. And ironically, now that people are accusing him of stealing this, I just saw an article this morning, so I guess not so original, but you can't believe everything that you hear. But my winner 100% on this one is Jordan Peele for Get Out. One of the most unique, sharpest commentaries I've seen in a film in such a long time, and it was so funny, so tense, so interesting. And Jordan Peele is such a great writer, and he's hilarious, and honestly could pack a real punch. So Jordan Peele for Get Out, your best original screenplay for me. Now let's get to adapted. So this one's going to look, I think, a little different than the ones that were nominated at the actual Oscars, but we have Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber for The Disaster Artist. This film took such a weird story. They obviously hit on all the points where it's like, here's scenes from The Room, because that's what people wanted to see, but it had such an endearing friendship story in it too, and that's what really was the heart of this film. Rian Johnson for Star Wars The Last Jedi. Yep, I'm on the train where I thought that what Rian Johnson did to Star Wars was amazing, and it was something that kept me on my toes, and I didn't know what to expect, and I thought that was the best, most beautiful part about The Last Jedi. And if you're one of the people who want it ripped out of canon and you're gonna hate my opinion on this, please just keep watching my video anyway. This is the last time I talk about Rian Johnson. Now, I want for the next nominations James Mangold, Scott Frank, and Michael Green for Logan. And I loved Logan, and every time I think, talk, or watch this film, this keeps getting even better for me. And this has risen on my Excel spreadsheet where I keep track of all the movies I've seen and rank them. And it's risen so high because this takes this character in such great places and is so unique to the genre and really hits emotional points, strong characters, and so many interesting themes throughout. James Ivory for Call Me By Your Name, well fleshed out characters, beautiful romance, and there's a monologue. That was one of the most well written things I've seen in film this whole entire year. But the winners, Hampton Thatcher and Michael Green for Blade Runner 2049. My God, this movie blew my mind. And if that doesn't set the tone for the rest of this video, well, I don't know what to tell you. But this is such an interesting, engaging, strange story with such interesting characters, and some of the monologues and scenes and dialogue in this film are so powerful, and I absolutely loved it. Now, the Wasteland Reviewer Award for visual effects, we have Blade Runner 2049, because my God, this movie is gorgeous. My God, it's gorgeous. You get transported. Thor Ragnarok. Some of those scenes with the CGI and the Hulk, it's just fantastic work of CGI. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This could deserve a nomination just for Ego the Living Planet, because such a complex, crazy world and planet and character that they constructed with all CGI. Star Wars The Last Jedi, because I know Canto Bight wasn't the best, but there were a lot of the other scenes using this computer generated imagery was so amazing. But this was a no contest for me, because if War for the Planet of the Apes doesn't win for actually creating real apes, because yeah, they look like real apes, I'll be very upset. And you know that now. There's a few things that if they don't win, I will probably slam my notebook down on the floor in my apartment during my party. That's one of them. Next up, production design. So I'm going to go with Dunkirk, because I thought that it was such an amazingly fully realized World War II era film, utilizing actual planes and shit. Like, oh my God, Christopher Nolan. Star Wars The Last Jedi. Canto might not have been the most interesting part of that movie, but it was gorgeous and looked really cool, and I would honestly give this a nomination just for Snoke's like room and the Praetorian Guards, because they looked so cool. And then Thor Ragnarok, because some of the worlds they created in this guitar was just so cool and looked so different and interesting. The Shape of Water, because it really hit the period piece, but also that strange gothic-y kind of Guillermo del Toro kind of jazz on everything. But I'm going to give production design to Blade Runner 2049, because this literally, I was looking at a real concrete world in front of me that was breathtaking. LA looks crazy. Las Vegas in this movie is one of the coolest dystopian things I've ever seen in a film, and I'm like, I want to see a whole movie just in there. Sequel. Now, I wound up doing the list based off of how they list out things on the Oscar web. Oh no, I think it was Vanity Fair. I tried to find something so I got all the categories straight. So these are a weird order, but here we go. Best Picture. Surprise. And honestly, if you watch my top 10 video, you already know what's going to win. I did 9 nominees just to keep straight with the Academy Awards. So we have Call Me By Your Name, Thelma, that Norwegian film that you should go check out, Lady Bird, I, Tonya, Get Out, War for the Planet of the Apes, Shape of Water, Wind River, which I absolutely love, Taylor Sheridan. I'm just realizing now, why the hell did I not nominate that for original screenplay? I'm going to have 6 nominees for original screenplay. Screw the rules. This is my show. So, yes, I give Taylor Sheridan a nominee for Best Original Screenplay. Jordan Peele would have won anyway. And then our winner is Blade Runner 2049, because this movie blew my world. And I watched it again, and it was still unbelievable, and everything that was done in that film pulled together to make one of the most satisfying science fiction experiences I've ever had. Honestly, it's fighting to be in my top 10 favorite films ever at this point. Might need some time to watch it a couple more times, but which I'd gladly do because I absolutely love the film. Now, Best Original Song. I realized I forgot to put down who performed or wrote these songs, so I apologize, but I remember the movies they're in. So we have Come Alive, which honestly I really, really enjoyed from The Greatest Showman. This Is Me, the song that everybody knows from The Greatest Showman. Remember Me from Coco. I loved Coco. Coco was great, and I'll gush about Coco later. And Visions of Gideon from Call Me By Your Name. And our winner, Mystery of Love from Call Me By Your Name. I don't know how to describe how that song makes me feel, but listening to that song, it's just so... It has such a strange vibe to it, where it's so somber, but emotional, and just everything. And how that fit in that film was, seriously moving. Now we have Best Score. So this is definitely going to be a little different than what they did with the Academy, because you're going to see my biases here and what I like out of a score in this, because there's not a whole lot of the period piece kind of beautiful kind of scores, except for one. But we have Marco Beltrami for Logan. Honestly, sitting and watching that film, I was so perplexed and interested by the score they chose with it, because it has that Western vibe, but then it has piano and strings and everything. And the one scene where they're trying to escape their compound in the limousine, the score was so interesting in that scene. Mark Mothersbaugh for Thor Ragnarok. My God, I love that score. It was the coolest thing, and it really captured the atmosphere that they are trying, and style that they were trying to do with that film. So, you go, Mark. Alexandre Desplat for The Shape of Water, which, beautiful. The score was absolutely gorgeous for that film. And there's going to be some Hans Zimmer love on this list, because Hans Zimmer for Dunkirk. That song Submarine, yep. And that score is intense as hell. But we got Hans Zimmer and Barry Wallfish for Blade Runner 2049. That was it's one of the most atmospheric, eerie, different, just unique, yet homages the original Blade Runner score so well, and it's so well done. And who couldn't resist having Hans Zimmer's big wham 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 stuff going on in the credits? If you sit through the beginning of the credits, boy, does that really hit. Now, for makeup and hairstyle, I said screw it. I gave this 5 nominees, even though they only give 3 for the Oscars. Wonder, because little Augie on Jacob Tremblay, that was some great makeup they did. The Star Wars The Last Jedi, because especially with the new revival of Star Wars with a lot of the practical effects, it looks awesome. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because Mako Ruka, Yondu, absolutely, and Gamora and Drax, and honestly, I don't get why that doesn't get more shout outs because of the makeup in that. I, Tonya, because figure skating. And my winner, though, is Darkest Hour, because look at Gary Oldman. And that doesn't look like Gary Oldman. That looks like Winston Churchill. Now, film editing. So, we have John Wick Chapter 2. John Wick almost popped up on this quite a few times, because how that... I'm going to stop myself for a second. Because if you've ever watched any of my reviews of any movies that are vaguely action-y, You know how much I love John Wick and how John Wick does action, because you can literally see everything and you don't need to cut every 2 seconds. Put together so well. Dunkirk, how the hell did they put that film together the way that they did and make that work? Not to give anything away, but it'll blow your mind halfway through when you realize what's going on. I, Tonya, I thought that was really well put together with all the documentary, the interviews, and going back to like traditional looking storytelling. Get Out, all the imagery sliced in and how it's all put together, and the detail and the shots that and how everything's put together in that film. But I'm gonna give this to Baby Driver, because my God, have you seen a cooler film this year? And the energy and how quickly cut together, and as I was just saying how I don't like quick cuts, how this film did it was amazing. And you go, Baby Driver, because I think that's the only real love you're getting on this. Sorry. Directing. So honestly, this is almost exactly like the Academy, except I changed one, which is who won for me. So I guess it is going to be different. But Christopher Nolan, because you deserve it, because finally, how you put that film together is amazing. Greta Gerwig, it's nothing crazy and big, but how it was put together, such a natural film, and it just works so well. Then you have Jordan Peele for Get Out, because balancing all of what was going on in that film and how it was able to pull together and create what it was supposed to be was so awesome. Guillermo del Toro for Shape of Water, because 25 years, you deserved it. And I love your monsters too, most of them. And my winner, because I'm going to keep gushing here, is Denis Villeneuve for Blade Runner 2049. Because how the hell do you not give this to him for creating a film like this? The scale, the themes, the action, the visuals, bringing it all together, it's just like, how don't you? And he doesn't get enough love, honestly, from the Academy, because he's such a talented director. Costume, you're going to... I'm not even going to say. You'll find out when we get to who I gave to this. But I'm going to give nominations to Murder on the Orient Express, because honestly, that film was gorgeous looking, and I thought it was a fun time and a good film. It made a surprising lot of money too. Beauty and the Beast, one of the best things about that was the hair, all the costumes. Star Wars: The Last Jedi, because they had some cool ass costumes. I cosplayed as Luke because how he dresses is really cool, and then Snoke and those Praetorian guards are so cool and creepy looking. Thor Ragnarok, because I thought all the outfits and everything everyone had a unique look to them, and the color palettes and everything put together. I almost gave Taika Waititi a nomination for Best Director, because how he put together such an amazingly fun film. Just missed out, Taika. I love you. But costume design, Phantom Thread, because duh. The whole entire film's about making dresses and shit. How do you not give that? And they were gorgeous. I wonder if Daniel Day-Lewis actually made them. He had to. He was Reynolds. He had to have done it. Now, cinematography, which is honestly one of my favorite awards, to be perfectly honest, because I love cinematography, and I think the way a film looks and how it's shot is one of the coolest. It's one of the most important things about film, because it's such a visual medium. But Van Hoytema for Dunkirk, because how those shots were done, especially the dog fights, everything was amazing. You're showing yourself, Hoyt, because Wally Pfister was with Christopher Nolan for so long, and now Interstellar in this. You got this. Steve Yedlin for The Last Jedi, because the cinematography in this was gorgeous. Not to give away anything, but there is a collision in this and some silence that was breathtaking. And just the wide scope, like the wide screen looking showdown shots, and how the action was all shot. Oh, I'm gonna gush. Sorry. Now, Dan Lautsen, I'm giving two nominations. One for The Shape of Water because it was such a gorgeous looking film and the colors and everything, but he deserves a nomination for John Wick Chapter 2 as well because how that film looked was breathtaking. And the use of colors and the use of how the camera worked against that mirror room sequence was one of the coolest things of this whole entire year. And the catacomb sequence, one of the coolest things this whole entire year. But the biggest, if this doesn't win, I'll chuck my notebook across the room, is if Roger Deakins doesn't win for Blade Runner 2049, I'm done. He deserves it. And this film is absolutely breathtaking. I would fill my room wall to wall with just still photos of shots from this film. That one, oh my god, when Ryan Gosling's character is walking into Las Vegas. It's in the trailer. That like orangey kind of lighting and the two women's faces, like with their mouths agape looking at each other. Oh my god. Best animated feature. Boy, was this a underwhelming year, especially after last year. I almost had 3 animated features in my top 10 list because that's how great animation was last year. And this was a 1, yeah, you win, and 4 also rans for the most part. Cars 3, I thought it was cute, I thought it was fun. You're going to notice Loving Vincent's not on here because I saw that and I thought it was really beautiful the first time I watched it, and ever since then I'm like, that was boring as hell. At least I had fun a bit watching Cars 3. Ferdinand's a sweet film. John Cena. John Cena! And now the top 3 are the ones that I really think. Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. How's that not getting a nomination this year? Boss, baby. But Captain Underpants was so much fun. It was very clever. And how everything was put together was so well done. And I love the sock puppet parts. And just like, that was hilarious. The Lego Batman movie! Screw you, Academy, and your hatred for Legos. Because that was leaps and bounds the second best animated film of the year. Like, who are you kidding? Really? Batman. And then Coco. Because Coco was beautiful. It was heartwarming. It had every emotion. The music was beautiful. It was gorgeous. I loved it. You're winning. No surprise there. And now we're going to finish up with our acting awards. Now, some of these are definitely going to be very different than what the Academy picked out. But Best Supporting Actress, Tiffany Haddish. Because honestly, you were one of the coolest characters in film this whole entire year. You were a barnstorm of hilarity and just like, you're great. I want to see you in more things. And then I remembered you had that small role in Keanu. Actually, it wasn't a small role. You just didn't stand out as much. But yeah, Keanu. Jennifer Connelly for Only the Brave. I remember seeing this film and being like, I love Jennifer Connelly and Josh Brolin in this film. And honestly, Josh Brolin could have snuck in too for Best Actor if it wasn't such a packed year. But Jennifer Connelly, I thought was amazing. She did so much heavy lifting in that. Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, because honestly, this award comes down to who's the best mom award. But she was great in Lady Bird. Karen Konoval for War for the Planet of the Apes. For Maurice, because honestly, Maurice is one of the most endearing performances in this whole entire year of film. There's so many heartwarming moments with that character in all 3 films, and it's a woman. How many of you knew that? And also, screw you if you think that motion capture performances shouldn't get nominated because they have CGI over them. It's just not their performance. Yeah, whatever. But this is going to Allison Janney because my God, what a punch in the face performance this was. She was buzzword tour de force, and she just comes swiping in that film whenever she pops up with so much power and energy and Such an amazing performance. Best Actress, almost exactly like the Academy's, except sorry, Street. I gave it to Jessica Chastain for Molly's Game because she was great. I liked you a lot in The Post. Honestly, I thought it was one of your best performances in years, but I think Jessica Chastain really earned this one. Frances McDormand for Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. She was so powerful and was able to show a couple different sides of this character. Saoirse Ronan, I love Saoirse Ronan. She's my favorite actress, and it pains me not to give it to her. But I loved her in Lady Bird, and someday I wish I could meet you. Whatever. Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, because I thought she did such a powerful job, especially not being able to speak and using the sign language and really showing emotion. But this one goes to Margot Robbie, and honestly, I would have given it to her just for that mirror scene, but everything else was amazing too. She was able to balance endearing and scummy and powerful and fragile and then aggressive and everything throughout this whole entire film. And when she tells somebody to suck her what, it makes me laugh every time. So both those awards go to I, Tonya. Now to wrap it up with the acting awards for male performances, Best Supporting Actor. This one looks quite different than the Academy, and I'm gonna preface this. Sam Rockwell's not a supporting performance in Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, because he's a dual lead, and I do not practice category fraud in my awards. I had the same crap last year when Viola Davis won Best Supporting Actress when she was very obviously was a lead, and I also gave the Lead Actress award to her because she deserved it. Sam Rockwell's didn't even get a nomination for Best Actor in my awards. Sorry, Sam. It was too packed of a year. But Best Supporting Actor, Willem Dafoe, because he was the heart of the Florida Project. It was such an endearing role and so different for him as well. Michael Stuhlbarg, for all 6 movies he was in this year, but for Call Me By Your Name, because monologue, that's all I'm going to say. Armie Hammer for Call Me By Your Name, so instead of 3 billboards, we got 2 Call Me By Your Name, because Armie Hammer had to carry his weight for this film to work, and he really did, and I usually don't like him. I was so close to picking Richard Jenkins for Shape of Water to win this because he was so endearing. I just had a giant grin on my face whenever he was on screen, especially the moment where him and Sally Hawkins danced with their feet to that film, and it was so great. But screw you guys, this is going to Patrick Stewart for Logan, because he played a man with Alzheimer's, and when the hell does that stuff not win Oscars or get nominated at least? Why? Because it was in a superhero movie? Yeah. And he was amazing. He was funny. He was heartfelt, and he carried a lot of weight on him making a comment about, we're going for a whole entire week. She's 10. I'm effing 90. Oh my god. Just everything about that performance. It was heartbreaking, and I loved it. So, Best Actor. This one's going to look a lot different than what was nominated for the Academy Awards, and I'll admit mine's a lot less diverse than the Academy nominees, and to be perfectly honest, I don't think Denzel Washington should have even been in the conversation for Best Actor this year. I'm sorry, but he did a good job in Roman J. Israel. But I do admit Daniel Kaluuya was like 6th or 7th nominee on my list because he was really, really powerful in Get Out. But Christian Bale for Hostiles, nobody is freaking talking about this movie, and he was amazing. I think Christian Bale's kind of getting to the point where he's kind of overthought for award season, and he's been really I don't know how fair that statement was. His last big role for The Big Short, he did get nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and even though he was a lead, but whatever. Christian Bale was really good in that. In Hostiles, he was amazing, and some of the emotional places he had to go. I am shocked I'm not giving this award to Daniel Day-Lewis, because all the smallest of decisions and choices he makes in that role really, really make him real, and you can just feel the temperamental nature of him just pouring off of him throughout the whole film. Timothy Chalamet, boy did he act the shit out of that movie. And just with a stare, he's really talented, and he has a lot. He's going to be going places. Probably the most controversial pick, Andy Serkis for War for the Planet of the Apes, because my God, his performance as Caesar is unbelievably emotional and powerful, as it always has been. So, take it or leave it. And my winner, for 16 years of building up to this point, and then delivering his best performance in a role that he has lived for 16 years, and Logan, Hugh Jackman. There are scenes in this film that are unbelievably heartbreaking, and they're so well created because of the performance of Hugh Jackman. There's a particular scene, which I won't give anything away, that him really being raw and showing his emotions, and then the end of that movie, oh God, makes me cry every time. I tear up just talking about it sometimes, because it was so unbelievably powerful. God, Hugh Jackman, you deserved it. So thank you all for tuning in and checking into my Wasteland Reviewer Awards. Tell me that I'm wrong and my opinions suck in the comments, and let me know what you guys think should be winning all of the major awards at the Academy Awards.